John, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Dave. How about you, man?
I got to admit, I'm getting a little excited. Getting a little excited for Vegas and the fan party. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to make it, which really bugs me. But you know, I wish you could be there, buddy.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of fighting depression over it, and actually I have a buddy that really wants to go, and so I might try to talk him into driving there with me because I can't afford to fly right now. So it's for us it's only 8 hours, and so 4 hours easy enough. And I mean you grew up around here, you'd go to Vegas, for the night, like if you were young and dumb enough, and so there's still a very small chance I might be able to make it for one day, but we'll see. But
well, we hope you can, bud, because it wouldn't be the same there without you.
It would be fun. You know what? You guys are going to have a blast, and the best thing is it's going to be. And I got to be honest, like the reason why I want to go so badly, and the reason why I think anyone that can go should, is because I've been involved in many things that have gone on for years and years that started small. And those first meetings that you have, those first get-togethers, are usually much smaller, and they're much more familiar, and they're much more friendly, and they're much more kickback, and they're much more normal. And you build relationships, you meet people, you hear stories that you're never going to hear any other time. And that, as much as I'm glad you guys are going to continue doing it, and the rest of them will be amazing in their own ways, this is going to be a special event. And so people who can go should definitely be there.
Oh, that's beautifully said. Beautifully said. John, we bring you in here as our resident UFO guru about what's going on in the world. What do you got for us to kick off the week here?
To be honest with you, well, okay. From one aspect, this is really cool, but I'm a little frustrated with some of the stories I've been working on. So that's the reason why my frustration. But the thing is that what we have is we have two possibly similar examples of our problem with data collection, data analysis, and data dissemination. As it applies to both the UFO field and the cryptid field. And
cool.
What we have is we have a report that, and I'm afraid it's in German, and I wasn't able to get my translation working in time, so that was one of the things I was fighting with. So I only know the highlights of the article. But the thing is that, and it was posted by our friend whose name I always forget how to pronounce, Baptista Frisk. Oh, Baptiste, thank you. Anyway, he deserves credit for posting it. And the thing is that this it's a hell of an image of a disc, and I guess what I find very interesting, and I encourage everyone to read it. But what I find very interesting is that this was a case where multiple people from Twitter kind of jumped in to add a tremendous amount of color to this story. In that, essentially, one person jumps in and says, a friend of the show, Gilliam, probably mispronouncing his name too. But the point is that he said that Elizondo was asked about this photograph, and he basically said that that ATIP didn't work on it, and that essentially it was unavailable, either civilian Air Force or older than the ATIP program. So, does that tell us anything in particular? No, but it's very, very interesting, useful information that, should have been included in the article, but you couldn't get from the article. You're only going to get from wandering around the scary, channels of UFO Twitter. And essentially, but the thing is that then this other gentleman who goes by Jack Frostman claims that the source of the video had been found. And the uploader claims that it was taken from a flight from Rome to Paris in 2006 on a Panama Blue flight. The problem is that his channel also hosts other CGI videos, putting all of his videos in doubt. And then the second channel is that because of the limited information he gave, no one's been able to confirm the flight that he said he was on. And so to me, it's a really interesting case because there's not enough to say anything at all. And but there's enough that there's a fair number of jumping off points in this story where a reasonable person could start coming to conclusions because of the emotional pull to do so. And essentially, you know, I mean, in my personal opinion, if this story about the gentleman who posted the video is accurate, you know, as was alleged in here, if that is accurate, then I would lower the probability of this photograph being real, but I wouldn't wipe it out completely by any means whatsoever. These things are always far more complicated than that. But I was curious, have you seen this photograph? Do you know anything about it?
I have not seen the photograph yet, but like you, I very much, you know, get my hackles up a little bit when I hear a photograph like this is on a site that is well known for CGI type videos. I mean, the unfortunate part that our public doesn't know who's listening to us is that it's very hard at times to decipher proper information, John, because we don't know what is real and what's not anymore. CGI has become so clean on film that, you know, I mean, look, if it was 5, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's easy to tell. It's completely easy to tell. But you fast forward to the way technology has improved, it's very hard to trust any photograph or any video these days on whether or not it's real, unless the source is completely clean. And even then, when you get, say, American fighter pilots who are videotaping these things and have a good solid record for what they do, they're even being questioned about whether or not their videos are real. We're in a bad time when it comes to video, John.
Okay. Yes. Can I just point out, as a side note, as a technical person, we
Please.
all warned you repeatedly. It's like, give me a freaking break. But anyway, this was supposed to happen. This was actually supposed to happen. This actually shows that we're making progress, right? This shows that we're actually doing the right things, right? Because the whole point is to be able to eventually build everything ourselves, right? So, but the thing is that this whole hang up people have on what's real, right? And this whole, I mean, do you realize that? Okay, yes, everything you said is true. There's no way that you can take any video that you find today and make any sort of any conclusions based on that, right? However, is that really that different? I mean, haven't we always said we need the camera, right? That unless we get the camera, we can't actually prove. You know, I mean, there's always been all these back cover conditions to what is, but now, aside from all that complexity that doesn't just exist in our world, it exists in many other worlds as well. Now we have this new problem where I know good people that you know, Dave, that are good people that are, from my brief analysis, sane individuals who are posting pictures of things and they don't know if it's real.
That's tough.
So man. What? How does this weight of real matter, right? I mean, what? I mean, you almost just have to ask: is it presently here? Right? Is it not? I don't care. I mean, is it presently here? I'm concerned. If it's not, it doesn't matter to me anymore. I mean, it really, at some level, we have to start being realistic about what is this hang up we have on what is real and what are real photographs. And that, yes, a single photograph, a single film by itself, it should not be, and it never should have been. It should always include, probably, I mean, I don't know what the good logic is on this for like other fields, but I would guess 6 to 12 different points out of like probably 48 or 64 points available that you would have to have set up so that you would actually get anything close to what is real. I mean, you know, to me, yeah, I don't. But the thing is that we have to get to a point where essentially people start realizing that yes, video is useful, pictures are useful, but it needs to come with uh, a plethora of
Nice.
other data sets, and what those data sets are, while they are weighted based on their quality and their source, they're not necessarily weighted based on their media type, right? You know, just like your body does. You know, you take in smell and peripheral vision and sound and all sorts of other things when you're weighing what you see, right? Same idea, right? So, you know, that is essentially how it's always been, how it should have been. No one should just trust any video that they see. But we also have to realize that even once you can film, here's the problem. You can film something with witnesses, have the film, have the camera, have all the chain of authority, have all the witnesses, have multiple angles, and you still don't know if what was filmed was actually real.
How
Because
does this
honestly, Dave, I can't even prove that you're Dave.
Oh God, I hope so. I hope you can.
You'd be surprised. It's a lot harder than you think it is.
Okay, but how does this negatively impact what we're trying to learn here in the UFO community?
Oh boy, you know what? Okay,
We got 2
I
minutes.
hope this doesn't sound. I hope this doesn't sound terse, but essentially, it's time to grow up. This isn't Boolean. There's no silver bullets. There's no white horse. There's nothing like that. I mean, everything is going to be a preponderance of a weight of evidence. That's how everything works, right? Everything is always going to be some, and for everyone it's different. Everyone's got some different magic thing in their head of what combination of facts need to be, you know, set with some sort of, you know, 80% or 90% reliability rule for them to say with confidence, yes, this is it. Some people have other weird hangups. Like for me, I really almost have to see it or feel it myself to really speak with it with a lot of confidence, and that's not really always fair. But the thing is that these hangups, we need to recognize that it's part of the growing up is just weighting all these values and weighting all these data points and not needing this instant Boolean, yes, it's real, no, it's not. Because, for example, what if, for example, Bigfoot is real, but it's not a flesh and blood creature? It's some sort of an energy entity. Is it real then? For a lot of people, they would say no, it's not real because it's not flesh and blood. So we have to really start asking ourselves how much these definitions mean to us.
Wow. I've never really looked at it in that regard. And this is why you're the best when it comes up to this. Jon Hudson, the fedora wearing guru when it comes to UFO research around the world with the Unbiased UFO report. Jon comes in a couple times a week to discuss everything about UAP and the stories that are going on right now regarding this amazing, amazing subject. When we return, the fedora wearing Jon Hudson rejoins us, and we'll be back for the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio right after this. Stay tuned. That is actually quite profound.
If you ever have to work in identity, it's something that you nearly have nightmares about. Because the thing is that I can't even prove I'm me. All I can actually do is provide a preponderance to say, hey, I can say with reasonable certainty. I can say with 94% probability, right? That's all I can really do. It's kind of nutty.
That is real. I mean, you talk about woo, Jon. That is big time woo right there.
Well, let's add to the fact that your DNA changes over time, right? You do actually incorporate the DNA of some things that you come in contact with, including mates, right? So I mean, it's and now there's this whole new world of epigenetic. I mean, oh man, we're doing well, but we're treading in the shallow end.
Look at all the. I'm just looking at all the different sizes here. Okay, I don't like that one. That one I kind of like.
Oh, thank you very much, Cindy.
Stunning Cindy with a great super chat there.
Yeah, very kind.
Look at the hair streaks in there. Those streaks look nice.
Clearly an alien.
Definitely an alien.
Has streaks like that.
Yeah, total alien. Also, a big thank you to Ozzy Simon, Horror Realm, Stephen, Terry, Vaughn, and Dragon L for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate your support of SOR. I love all the Vegas chat in the chat room right now. I do. By the way, next year, it'll be, I can give you the date. I can already give you the date. Hold on. The date next year will be the 12th, 13th, 14th of May. 12th, 13th, 14th of May. And next year, it will be pretty cool because there's a couple things that are going to go on. We'll be celebrating Davey's 50th birthday. Hard to believe I will be 50 next year. My God. And we'll also be coming up with something really cool for you guys. So for those of you who are coming this year, wonderful. Thank you. I can't wait to meet each and every one of you. And yes, we're going to take a lot of photos, guys. We're going to take a lot of photos. But for those who can't make it this year, next year, we are going to do it all again. May 12th, 13th, 14th. It gives you 13 months to prepare. And we're going to make sure that there's hotel deals with promo codes. We're going to make sure that there's something real special for you guys there. And we're going to invite the same people around. Well, not the same, a lot of the same people. And, oh, Joe Kistner, thank you so much for that super chat, man. Very much appreciate that.
Super kind.
Not a problem. We love keeping the archives open and for free for people such as you, Joe, who can't make it to the live show. Just one of those things we do.
You know, one thing, Dave, I think we're going to be able to do at one point is because of the fact that you re-release all these little news segments I do with this date stamp and so forth, eventually what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to take all of those and slurp them into an algorithm. And it will actually create a system where essentially it will become a time-stamped, oh God, I would be killed by several people I know dearly for saying what I'm about to say. It would be like a blockchain. It would be, oh man, I can't believe I did that. But it would be an incredible collection of data. It would be something else.
Mm-hmm. I'm John. You know what? You got me excited, man. I hope you can make it.
Yeah, we'll see. I got to talk to my buddy. We'll find out. Bit of a drive, but might be worth it.
Mm-hmm. I want to touch the fedora again. Yes, Jules, you were right. May 12, 13, 14, 2023. That is going to be next year's SOR fan party. At the, most likely, it'll be at the Golden Nugget in Las Vegas again. And it's just, I think it's a good place. And yeah. Hold on, guys. Here we go with the final half hour. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Say thank you to each and every one of you for tuning us on in. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Our archives will always be free for you. Always. We don't believe in that charging for archive stuff around here. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with the fedora-wearing Jon Hudson and the Unbiased UFO Report, where we get into all the latest and most awesome UFO stories that roll on in towards us. Jon, welcome back.
Thank you. Dave, I just realized I never sent you my notes. I apologize. So what I did, I just sent you a quick image of the story I want to talk about next, which has an image on it that I assume we can share if we include who posted it. But the thing is that to me, so what this pertains to, and then actually I want to dovetail back into this whole identity thing. So I think there's a couple of important things we could talk about. But many of you have heard of the Beast of Bray Road. This is depending on where you are in the world, this is a story that you've heard growing up or so forth. And what's really interesting is that we now have a situation where there appears to have been pictures captured. And there is tremendous debate about the authenticity and so forth of these pictures. But looking at these pictures, you can see that this creature's, at least one of its front legs is pretty much non-existent, forcing it to walk on. And so essentially it looks like it might be a severely wounded wolf that's walking on two legs. And like I said, this was a new story for me. I have not had a chance to research it very well at all. But what I find super interesting about this is that one, we have what could be a plausible explanation. I don't know if it covers all the details of that story, but it is a plausible explanation. The challenge is that even if a decent number of reasonable people come to the determination that this explains the story, it doesn't actually change anything. The story won't actually die. And I'm not saying it should, but what I'm saying is that this illustrates a real problem that we have in all these fields, in that because of our lack of ability to come to even a rough consensus, we are stuck in this forever loop of reevaluating and repressing data, which is exactly what happened with the previous story we talked about the disc. In that, I saw several people commenting with things like, "Oh man, we debugged that thing years ago. Why are you bringing that thing up again?" Right? And that's the sort of back and forth that you get. And this is to me, this is just super interesting because I am familiar with the story, and that's just to me a just very interesting explanation, at least for some of it. But I really do think it illustrates a real problem that we have, in that it's a lot of work to write out a proposed hypothesis of sorts, right? And and when you produce something, I can only give a personal example, but it's not a very good example, but it's one I know because it's mine. There was a while ago, I came to this what I believe was a reasonable conclusion, that essentially this report that had come out on a certain type of craft, as well as a report that had come out about some stuff that Danny Sheehan had said, as well as another report that come out, as well as this poster that was on Mick West's wall, were actually all the same craft. And I believe that I could now explain why it is that the poster was removed, and he was not told who took it or why. And that's because of the classification level that it was at, which was far beyond what he had. And so to me, this actually explains a bunch of things, including one very famous UFO case, right? And essentially, the thing is that one, I don't know. I didn't take any poll. I don't know how many people evaluated my data and decided that I was right or not. But I don't have anywhere I can take that to. There's no like board that I can go to. And the thing is that even if what I wrote was fantastic, how many people are going to read it? How many people are going to decide not to believe it just because they don't want to? And so then you start asking, what is the value in producing this data that really honestly takes a lot of work if it turns out that it's not going to actually move the ball at all, and to me it's these are two both really good, interesting stories. I mean, fun stuff to research, a cool way to spend your afternoon if you have it, right? But it does unfortunately draw attention to an unfortunate problem we have, which is somewhat culturally related to what we have, but it's also very much related to the identity problem that you and I were talking about before.
John, does this not take us back to the days of anecdotal evidence having to provide more detail and becoming more credible than where we've kind of put it? Now, I know it doesn't help the scientific field with anything, but at least it keeps the story going if we can't trust photographs or videos any longer.
So for me, there are no silver bullets, and there's nothing that's really worth a whole lot more than anything else, right? I mean, look, even in the case of freaking samples and DNA, right? I mean, you guys have that in the cryptid world, and still, it doesn't matter. So how you weigh these data points, but the point is that it's not going to be one thing. It's not going to be just your anecdotal story. It's not going to be just your hard data points. It's going to need to be some combination of them that provides a overall enough of a weight of evidence to suggest that you should bother moving forward with the story, right? That it's worth still investigating, right? Is essentially the weight, is essentially the challenge that you're using to decide to move forward. You don't have to decide, is this true or do I still believe it? The question is there still data to follow, right? Are there still paths to follow? And the thing is that any even me, like, look, even all of us, when we go on trips, right, we tell a story, and what do? We bring back things to prove we were there.
Mm-hmm. But John,
right?
Yeah, but John, let me ask you this then: if we can't trust anecdotal evidence, if we can't trust video, can't trust the word of people who are allegedly in the know, can't trust photographs, how do we accomplish anything in regards to solving these mysteries?
It's actually pretty easy. No one's going to like it, but it's easy. You require personal experience. And what that does is that creates then a requirement for a certain amount of localization and a certain amount of participation and somewhat of a interview process, I assume. And essentially, if you think about it, part of the problem is we're all trying to learn long distance. And maybe, just maybe, and I think there's data growing to support this. This is something where, yes, you can get into the mechanics of how the movie was made, but the movie itself, the script, how it was written, how it was acted, what scenes were drawn attention to, that was all incredibly personally specific to you. And so a lot of it only you're going to get. Which then makes it even harder to look at it as science.
Okay, but wouldn't that be the exact same thing as we're talking about with these people who claim to be getting downloads of information?
Well, yes, but the thing is that that's another perfect example in that essentially, the data points that we have in that case is we have a person that reports a believed experience and educational background, who then has some sort of an experience, and then after that experience gains knowledge that they don't think they should have or that they had before. Okay. Now, let me preference that I've had this personally happen to myself. Okay.
Okay.
I never, ever, ever, ever thought aliens, ever, ever. And so the thing is that, so my point is that we can describe the feeling, we can describe the result, we can describe ways to test it in the field, but for us to ascribe meaning and belief as to where it's coming from is very challenging, because in my case, all of my data supports that all of mine was coming from my subconscious. And that's what I've always believed. Am I right? I have no idea. And so I don't really like to say that because I really don't know. But that's what I accept. That's what I thought when I was a kid, when it was happening all the time. I mean, not that it doesn't happen now, but I mean, when it was weird, you know.
Well, you are a weirdo. Well,
Happily so. Happily so. Happily so. But you know, the one other point I want to make, because I know we're running out of time here, is that you had a guest on the other night whose name is escaping me, but he brought up something that is really pertinent to our conversation. And what he talked about was the fact that he believes that there are objects that appear in his space, so in his direct space, that only he can see. That the object can be there and other people can't see the object. Furthermore, they can't necessarily interact with the object. And while most people would initially just blow this off as a hallucination, in his case, he has some other data. This is why this other data matters, right? His other data is pupil dilation and other eye restrictions that seem to indicate that he's focusing on something. Now, the problem is that necessarily doesn't even seal the deal, because we all do micro muscle movements when we watch other people do things. So how do we know that the eyes don't do the same thing, that when we're hallucinating, your eyes don't create some sympathetic routine to match the hallucination? I'm just saying it's possible. I don't think it's likely, but I'm just offering this a possibility. And so the thing is that, so for us to ascribe any conclusions to where it's coming from, it's so early. It's so freaking early. We really just need to be collecting the data and sharing our experiences. But the thing is, with this guy who saw this thing, now we have a whole new problem, right? Because if I'm wrong, if what I just said is wrong, and this other data set of the eye movement and so forth is valid enough to say that he is seeing something, and it could be. I don't know exactly how the mechanics of the eye works, as far as like can you trick it into thinking it got a photon? And can you pass it a photon and then ask it not to pay attention? I don't know if you can do that or not. But the thing is that something really weird's going on. And if it turns out that what he's saying is true, now everything's out. Everything's out.
But there are a lot of situations.
There could be a cat sitting on the table in front of me.
Yeah, and there are a lot of situations out there where people have been in groups, and this has happened to me, where we have been walking around, and like when the Bigfoot roared at us, 4 of us, right previous to that, 20, 30 seconds previous to that, I witnessed pixelation by a tree. One other person out of the other 3 saw that same pixelation that I did. The other 2 did not. They were the ones who wanted to continue the walk. And when we continued the walk 20, 30 seconds later from that area on my friend's property, we got roared at by this thing.
And I can't even fathom. Like I can't even
John,
fathom.
You cannot. And I've heard it once and once only. And I can tell you, once was enough.
I bet.
Okay.
I can't imagine. Your body, parts of your body reacted in ways that you didn't have any control over.
All 4 of us ran into the house. Thank goodness we were at the front of the house. All four of us ran into the house. You know, I could take some whooping or some hooting or something like that in the forest, but that roar, man, I will never forget. But the interesting part, just going by what you have said here as well, is why did only two of us see it? How can you have say a group of 10 people out on a camping trip? And this is a hypothetical story, but say 10 people out on a camping trip, a UFO flies over and only 5 of them see it, or 3 of them see it. And they're all pointing to the sky where it is, and nobody else can see it except them.
And the argument would be in the past, well, if the object can act on its environment, then it's real. Because if you have a cloaked device, the invisible device that then fires weapons on below, it will cause damage to that site. So then the single measurement is, can it have well, if it can be seen, it's having an effect on its environment. So therefore it is kind of real-ish.
Mm-hmm. Ish.
And reality, start recognizing the fact that at the very fundamental nature of reality is probability.
Very true.
That's not a mistake.